Hi, it's Rob the Frugalist, and today we're looking at running your log burner more efficiently. If you've got a wood burning stove like this is not a multi-fuel stove, this is a Charnwood C5, then you'll want to get your biggest bang for your buck. You want to be able to use it in the best way possible and have the most successful fires. So here we're going to look through some of the principles behind how you might be able to do that. In all things that I talk about today, we need to be considering the fire triangle. The fire triangle is oxygen, fuel, and heat. I'll get it right. So oxygen, fuel, and heat is your fire triangle. If your fire is struggling for any reason whatsoever, think about which one of these is missing or which one of these things needs to be a little bit more. So if your fire is smoking, for example, maybe you want to be thinking about more oxygen. If your fire's going out, you need more fuel. You see, and if it's not really catching, is it hot enough? And you'll be able to use that to figure out what perhaps you might need to experiment with. No two stoves are the same, so you might find different things work in different ways. I prefer, for example, the top-down burning method. It works great for this stove. It may not work great for all stoves, but what I found that it works really well. So let's get started. So first of all, to think about is your wood, kindling, and tinder. Okay, so if you've got not enough kindling, it's going to be a bit of a problem. You need to get that balance right. What I tend to do is put a couple of lumps of wood on the bottom, quite a lot of kindling in, and a little bit of tinder on the top to get it all started. How to do that? How do you judge that, and why is it important? Well, think of these things like gears on a car. You don't start a car in fifth gear, and fifth gear is pretty much your logs, okay, your hardwoods, maybe very big softwoods. But your softwoods are more like your gear 4 and 3, your kindling is like around your gear 2, and your tinder's your first gear. First gear is just your engagement gear to get you into the fire. But sometimes people don't put enough kindling on, so you don't engage with those bigger gears. In other words, those logs, especially the hardwoods, they take a while and a lot of heat to get going. So you've got to get that balance right. The only way to really do that is to experiment. Always put more kindling in than you think you need, and you'll find that it will catch. If you just put in just enough or not enough, you're going to get smolder. So you need to think about your ratios of logs, kindling, tinder. The next thing is to have seasoned wood. If you've got unseasoned wood or wood that's not been dried via a kiln, which is more expensive incidentally, then you're going to struggle. Why? Because firstly, you've got water in there. You're paying money effectively to heat that water to burn it off, so the wood will burn. It's pretty inefficient. So how do you know if your wood's seasoned? It's a lot lighter. Okay, if you get freshly cut wood, it's going to feel a lot heavier. But what you can begin to do is use one of these moisture meters. I've got one here, and these you can just put alongside, so you've got to go across the grain. So here's the grain of the wood here, and this needs to be freshly split for it to be accurate. And if you place this over there, you can begin to see it's reading about 10%. That's actually really good moisture levels. Although this has been in the house for a few days, so it might be a little bit higher percentage in the middle, maybe 12, maybe 15%. That's ideal. What you're looking for is less than 20% in order to get a most efficient burn out of your logs. Also, if you are using unseasoned wood, you're going to increase the chance of creosotes, etc., going up your chimney, and therefore a chance of chimney fire. You don't want to be doing that, and also more pollutants in the atmosphere. You want to burn as efficiently as possible. Okay, so the next thing you need to be thinking about is maintaining proper airflow. When you start a fire like this, and this is the Charnwood again, you've got this knob which you can pull out here. If it's fully out, that means your air is fully on. Ideal for starting a fire and getting it going. What you can also do is when you set your fire up is leave the door slightly ajar and you'll begin to hear a roar if you've got a well-balanced flue going up there. Sometimes you can get a cold plug, in which case you need to sort of preheat the flue, but I've never had that problem with this setup here, so I'm quite fortunate. So what you need to do here is leave the door ajar while it's going. You'll begin to feel the draw, and when it begins to get warm, you can close the door in. And you might only need to do this door ajar thing for a few seconds just before it begins to catch. And then when it begins to take, you'll be pushing this in, and this pushes in twice. So this furthest click is for effectively burning the wood efficiently, but not aggressively. Pulling it down is fast, and then put it all the way out. That's really to engage with the rest of the logs. So you've got these three settings. Experiment with them. Figure out what works well for you. But signs that it's not going right is if you're getting loads and loads of smoke coming in here. You shouldn't really see any smoke in your fire whatsoever if it's working efficiently. So maintaining proper airflow. What else can we say about it? If you've got your big logs on, you really want to be having this pushed all the way in. Okay, pushed all the way in, because it will begin to look after itself, and this is where you'll get your lovely glowing embers, and you won't see any soot on the ceiling or anything around here. There will be no soot there. Why? Soot is a sign it's burning inefficiently. This fire's burning well. Look at the top bit here. None of that is covered in soot, which means it's burning very efficiently. It's been burning for ages. It's got a great heat, and there's hardly anything on the glass. But don't touch the glass because it's hot. Choosing your logs. Log choice is a little bit like gear selection. Okay, if your fire's already going on really well, don't stick kindling on. It will last 5 seconds, and you'll be needing it for your next fire anyway. So always gravitate towards those larger logs. And when you are thinking about stopping the log burner, when you don't think you need the heat, take 2 hours off that time. So if it's 8 p.m. and you want to be going to bed at 10 p.m, stop adding logs on at 8 p.m. Why? Because it takes about an hour to burn out and then another hour to cool down. Each of those hours you're getting heat transference from this log burner into your room. So if you keep burning right up to the last minute, it's pretty inefficient in terms of value for money, because you're basically paying for a warm room that you're not going to be in. Obviously it depends on what your needs are for the house, but start thinking of it from that economical aspect. Ash is the next thing. It's good to have some ash in your log burner at the bottom. So in here, and I don't know if you can easily see in there, I've got a whole load of ash in there. It's not loads of ash, okay? You can have too much ash. Just like with everything, ash is a little bit of a balance thing, but what ash does is it helps insulate. It deals with any drips or dry bits, but mainly it helps insulate and reflect the heat back into the fire. If you have too much ash though, and it begins to build up high here, then you're actually sacrificing oxygen space, and that will reduce the efficiency of your log burner. So it's good to clean out that ash every couple of weeks or whenever it gets quite high, for your log burner to work efficiently. Next thing to do is to check your seals. So your seals control your air. So here you've got this little rope that goes around the inside. If that rope is compromised in any way, you may need a new one. That shouldn't really be happening if you've got a log burner, a new one, or anything for the last couple of years. They should last a while. If the seal is damaged though, you will need to replace it. Otherwise you're going to get a lack of control. You're going to get this log burner not being hot enough, and it will burn a little bit too quickly at times, and you're going to get, it's just going to affect the efficiency of the stove. Next thing is think about the position of your furniture in the room and other rooms in the house. So any rooms you don't want heated, close the door, okay, because this will heat more than one room. And also open the doors into the rooms that you do want warm. Think about where you're sitting. Don't have anything hot. Don't be one of these people who has logs right next to it. They will eventually, there's risk of fire, they will eventually ignite. I've seen loads of lovely looking pictures with logs sitting even against the log burner. Don't do that. Even if you're drying it out, you can't really recommend doing it because you're going to make a mistake one day, and you only need one mistake to see your house disappear in a ball of flames. When not using the fire, close the air intake. Remember, when you have this air intake pulled out, it's supplying air into the fire. But actually, it's letting the nice warm air in your house disappear off up the chimney. That's not very efficient. You're not even using a burner in your letting, you're basically having a window open. So when you are not using it, have it all plugged in. Oh yes, and when you want to start your fire, do it with a top-down burning technique. If you have a top-down burning technique, all the flames start at once, right? You get that heat straight away. Think about the fire triangle. You get that heat, it heats the flue, you don't get any cold plugs, and as a result, you get that draw of air into it, it burns more efficiently, and you'll get to burning your big logs a lot faster. And I'll show you a clip of that happening. A lot of people like the bottom-up approach. It's fine, it works. But if you want it more efficiently, the top-down is more efficient, certainly for this model of stove anyway. You may find models where it isn't, and I'm not in a position to challenge that. But from my experience, and I've got a video on this, top-down works really well. If you struggle with top-down, maybe you need more kindling and more paper just to start it off. That's the only times I've had problems, is when I've just tried to get away with the barest minimum. Don't try and get away with the barest minimum. You need enough kindling to get it going. But once it's going, boy, you cannot stop. It's great. It's lovely and warm. Don't burn it too hot. If you're burning it too hot, think about the heat transference into the room. If it's a certain heat, it's going to be great. Keep it at that heat. If it gets too hot, your room, you'll be burning fire and logs, you'd be burning logs a lot faster, but you're only getting a couple of extra degrees in the room. So think of it from an economical aspect. These are kind of DEFRA approved fires, and I think the DEFRA, these are really efficient fires, and as a result, even when they're on slumber mode, they're burning efficiently. So you can actually put it right in. Once you've got it to this kind of heat transference mode going on into your room, then you don't really need to do anything more. If you've got a multi-fuel burning stove, you tend to have a heat inlet at the bottom and the top. That's a balancing act. You need to figure it out. Okay, so usually use the bottom one for starting the fire, and you turn it off when the fire's going, and the top one, sometimes there's an air wash which helps remove the soot from the glass. But you can just basically experiment with that and figure out what's right. But what you're looking for is a steady, efficient burn. If it's burning too hot, you can get stovepipe thermometers. I don't have one yet. Maybe Christmas I'll get one, hopefully. But those can help get to your optimum temperature. But you don't need one. They're just a fun toy, so I will probably end up getting one. And of course, stove fans and also heat shields are excellent ideas for getting that flow of heat into the room. I've done an experiment showing the stove fans, they do work, but also heat shields, which are basically a piece of material that goes behind your stove, and it helps reflect it back in the room. I don't have one here, but they are options if you want to maximize the efficiency of your log burning stove. For a good starting of the fire, I'd also recommend getting some fire lighters. They just help take the hassle and uncertainty over starting a fire, unless you're a purist. So those can work really well. I would recommend, especially if you're new to it, use 1 max 2 fire lighters. You only need one. I use half of one, and I get away with that, and that works very well. But if you're not sure about getting that kindling going, or if you're struggling, fire lighters can really help you. A couple of bits I may have forgotten. If you're going to get a moisture meter, they're really cheap. There's no difference between any of them really, unless you want to spend more money, where you'll be spending more money for something that can be told by something which is a lot cheaper. So you shouldn't be spending more than about £12. on one of those things, because they just give you an idea. And people who've been doing this for a while, they don't need moisture meters. They can feel the weight and they can see the splits and the cracks across the wood, as to whether something has been ideally seasoned enough, ready to be burned. That's largely it. It's not rocket science. I was all for reading this Practical Pyromaniac book for tips, but it doesn't have any tips for this. It's all common sense. Anyone can do any of these things. So good luck in getting the heat working for your log burner. What else? Did I forget anything else? Probably. So you're cutting your own wood, then you can obviously make coffee logs, which is one of my other videos, or sawdust briquettes. They work, and this just keeps that efficiency high of burning stuff produced by your own fair hand, and keeps the BTUs, or the thermal units, warm in your house. Anyway, hope that's of use for you, especially if you're new to the burning world. Welcome to the log burning world. It's great fun, and just remember, have fun and experiment, and remember that heat triangle to help you run your log burner more efficiently.